I would like to call upon for Sam Noble for Zebpay, who will be speaking about the future of cryptocurrency in India. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Thank you for sticking around until the end of the day and coming to watch this. I'm Sam Noble, the CTO of Zebpay, one of the largest crypto exchanges in India. So I come from a technology background. I've spent the last 16 years working in the industry, and the last 5 years working within blockchain. So we're going to talk a little bit about the future of cryptocurrency in India, and to understand the future, we have to understand where we've come from and a bit about the past. But before we do that, who is Zebpay? I'm looking around the room. I think some people here from India might know who Zebpay is, but if you haven't been to India, you probably haven't heard of Zebpay. We're working on that as we're expanding out across the world. Zebpay was one of the oldest and first cryptocurrency exchanges in India, founded in 2014. And the original founder is somewhere here at this event as well, hiding around. He was somebody who was a real kind of Bitcoin maximalist, a visionary. In 2011, started bringing Bitcoin into India, one of the first people to do so. A few years later, the exchange was founded, and because of that, 2 out of 3 Indians, 2/3 of everybody in India who owns cryptocurrency, purchased their cryptocurrency through Zebpay, which is pretty awesome. That's no mean feat. Since then, since 2014, we've grown to 5 million users, $10 billion in transaction value, and scaling out to more than 160 countries. But India is always our focus. It's our home. It's where we put most of our effort into. But slowly moving out of there. And we just have 3 kind of main things we focus on. We have our retail exchange, but we also do our enterprise and our H&I services. So my colleague Nirmal will be here tomorrow to talk more about our products and what we're doing. I'm going to talk about more on the exchange history and how it is to operate an exchange in India. A little bit about us as a kind of distributed company, just to show that we're not some fly-by-night company who's just set up. We have a team that's spread around the world, offices in Singapore and India and Australia, and then the rest of the team are mostly based in India, but we have a presence around the world. And our core values as an exchange, we're not just here as a financial services company. For a lot of us who are in blockchain and got into blockchain many years ago, we wanted to do something with that technology, to make a difference, to change the world. And so the core values of Zebpay and what keeps us focused and helps us drive everything that we do is this idea of creating accessibility. Everybody should have access to cryptocurrency. There shouldn't be any barriers to entry. We have to do certain things to make sure that we know who you are and that you're not trying to launder money through the system, but otherwise it should be open to everybody. That means from a cost perspective. And by doing that, making it accessible, we're able to bring financial freedom to as many people as possible. So in a developing country like India, where we have 1.4 billion people, there's a lot of kind of range from people who have very little to people who have a lot. So we're trying to balance that out, making it open to everybody. And a big part of this is education. We really have to drive home education, help people, support them, help them understand what this market is and how they can be a part of it. So this is all well and good, but what is this guy doing here who's clearly not an Indian, talking about an Indian exchange? What does he know about India? Well, as I said, I'm a technologist. I've been in the industry for the last 5 years. And really, I got into blockchain with EOS in 2017. I don't know if anybody here is an EOS fan or an EOS supporter, but that was my real kind of first love. Obviously, 2011, 2012, I got into Bitcoin. But EOS, I was part of the original mainnet launch in 2018. And this was a real community where we were trying to make a difference. We're trying to bring some technology to the rest of the world and make a change. So spending some time in EOS, the community there was pretty small. We'd go to some of these events and there'd be a few hundred people, not on this kind of scale. But as I was traveling around Southeast Asia, I was in China, I met a bunch of people who said, hey, you're over here, why don't you go and check out what's happening in India? There's this conference in Hyderabad, IBC, International Blockchain Congress. So at this point, I had been working with Indian teams since 2011. Being in software, there was a lot of outsourcing happening. So I thought, okay, let's go to Bangalore. Let's see what's happening over there. It's been a few years. Let's go to Hyderabad and see what's happening there. So I came to this International Blockchain Congress in 2018, and it was huge. 2,500 people, heads of states, banking leaders, some of the big four, Maersk were there, IBM were there, some really kind of interesting people, and everybody was so excited about blockchain. They weren't really talking about cryptocurrency, they were talking about blockchain and how much of a game changer it was for India. And just seeing that level of passion and how everybody was so excited about this, I thought, okay, something's going on here. This is really exciting. And also, funnily enough, I was wearing an EOS t-shirt, which back then, people didn't really understand decentralization, and they thought I was Mr. EOS. So it's finally now decentralization is becoming a bit easier to grasp, where there isn't an owner of the network. It's everybody owns the network. Everybody shares that. So I relocated to Bangalore. I also met a girl, and we got married, so I stayed there for the last couple of years, and just try to get involved in the blockchain community and the blockchain industry within India. And it was so rich and so vibrant, from people in college attending hackathons and being a mentor, being a panelist at various conferences. India Dap Fest in 2019, we started to see the level of people attending these events from all of the big companies. Everyone's getting interested. Everyone's really excited about blockchain. And by the very process of that, cryptocurrency comes along with it. But there's still a lot of misunderstanding, misinformation. So after this, I then met some of the people working in Zebpay. I came in as a consultant. I was a CTO, working as a fractional CTO, and fell in love with the team, fell in love with what they were doing, because I saw those core values. It matched with what we were doing back in the early days of EOS and trying to make a difference and improve the world. So then that's when I came on board to Zebpay. So to put it into perspective, why is all of this important? Because I have spent the last 3.5 years living in India, working in this industry. So as I mentioned, there's a lot of really good world use cases that we can see in India. There's use cases all over, mostly around supply chain, but India has some really unique challenges that blockchain is really good for. In the education sector, everything is paper-based. Most things are paper-based in India. I call it the land of 1,000 printouts. Everything you do, you need 2 or 3 copies of a printout. So with education, your certificates, everything is paper-based. If you lose or damage them, you're in trouble. It's really difficult to redo that. So digitizing certificates, putting them on the blockchain. Whenever you go for a job interview in India, you will have your education or history scrutinized. You will have your history that you have to present. So by digitizing this, securitizing that, putting it on chain, we can simplify all of this stuff. If we look at things like farming, so many farmers living in rural parts of the world, the farming industry is really complex in India. It's sustaining and it's the very foundation of the country. But it's really difficult for farmers to get access to funding, to be able to get fair pay for what they are producing. So again, by bringing in solutions like blockchain, where we connect farmers directly to the end users, we can make it a much more level playing field and a fairer place. Similar with renewable energy, imagine there's so much agriculture and agri-land in India. Installing solar panels, allowing people to generate their own electricity to power their village, and then sell the excess back to the government. This becomes so much easier with something like blockchain. And probably one of the best use cases is land ownership. So much land, it's a huge country. And hundreds of years worth of parcels of land changing hands, again, all on paper. And so much of it is disputed. It's really difficult to come along with a piece of paper and say, hey, I own this piece of land. So again, another great use case where blockchain can come in and make everybody's lives easier, safer, and level the playing field. So despite being a nation that's so ripe and ready for and forthcoming with blockchain, it's been a pretty difficult journey on the other side of that when it comes to cryptocurrency. So I don't know here who has any kind of knowledge or knows what has happened over the last few years in India. Because as I discovered, if you're not in India, you don't really know what's going on. You'll see what's happening on the news, you'll see what's going on BBC, but it doesn't really reflect it. Throughout COVID, being based in India, I would talk with my parents and they were hearing all of these kind of stories that just, no, that's not the case. The situation on the ground is very different. So in 2017, the Reserve Bank of India, the Federal Bank of India, started making movements that, they weren't too happy with this thing called cryptocurrency for numerous reasons. And they started saying that, this is a scam, people are going to get taken advantage of and lose their money. So in 2018, they actually came out and to try to shut these things down. I mean, it's very difficult to put a ban on cryptocurrency, but they forbid the banks from working with cryptocurrency exchanges, which is pretty smart. If you want to shut down cryptocurrency, you just don't allow people to buy it. And then in 2019, a committee was formed to kind of really look into this cryptocurrency thing and understand what it's all about. And they said we should just ban it, outright ban. Huge turn of events in 2020. The Supreme Court turned around and said, actually, this is unconstitutional. You can't do this. So you have to reverse that decision. The federal bank shouldn't be able to have this amount of control. So that decision was overturned. But it didn't happen overnight. There was still a lot of skepticism. There still is today. And even at the beginning of this year, 2 days before I started as CTO, the government again said we're going to completely ban cryptocurrency. It was a great start to my new career as a CTO of a crypto exchange. But luckily, this started a dialogue. This started a conversation with the government. So we started talking with some of the people, the lawmakers and the regulators. A lot of the cryptocurrency exchanges came together and put our heads together and said, let's get to the bottom of this. What are these guys so afraid of? What are the real objections? Maybe we can try to figure something out. And we discovered there were a few kind of really key points to all of this. One of them is just infrastructure. Being able to keep track of all of the comings and goings. It's hard enough to deal with income tax in India, so now adding this thing called cryptocurrency into it was really tricky. And because there's a lack of general regulatory policies and frameworks throughout the world, where do you start? Where do you begin with this stuff? It's so difficult. And then on the user side, it's a scam. There's this problem where the lack of understanding means that people can get taken advantage of. They can lose money, which comes back to that education piece. And then on the banking side, is it gambling? There's some really strict rules around gambling in India. So is it the same thing or is it different? So we involved each other and the government in these conversations to understand where the problems are. And a big part of that was the education to say, look, we're doing everything we can to make sure that we know who our customers are. To become a customer, you have to do full AML and KYC. We'll do all of your verification of your bank, of your address, of all of these things. So we were able to show that actually it's not that scary. We're not a bunch of cowboys running around just taking money here and there. We're trying to do something and do it in the best possible way. So by doing all of this and building these world-class products, we can show that this is a legitimate industry. The market is huge. Already in India, there's $6.6 billion of crypto asset holdings. That's up 400% in the last year, and it's just going to keep going. People want crypto. People want access to this stuff in India. And think about India. It's been the outsourcing capital for the last 15 years. The rest of the world has asked India to build their software. So over those 15 years, people have learned a trick or two about how to build software and how to build companies. So we have some world-class teams, some world-class technology innovations, and a thirst for Bitcoin. And if we look over the last few years, since 2015, 2016, the startup economy scene in India has just been exploding. So many unicorns are coming out of India now. Because we have the people there, we have the knowledge, they know how to build this stuff. An amazing talent pool. So if we take all of those things together with our experience from the fintech world, put a huge focus onto security and make products that are user-centric. We're really focusing on making it as simple as possible and educating our users as we go. And as part of the education piece and as part of our core values, we don't just want to do the exchange thing. We want to kind of broaden our product suite, and we've built an incubator that we call ZEB Labs, where we're trying to, again, build out products, services, and incubate these ideas that will make the world a better place. So solar BTC, renewable energy to mine Bitcoin. So we created, not me personally, but Prashant, our head of R&D, he's around here somewhere with his team. They created a solar-powered mining rig for Bitcoin. That's so cool. You can put it out anywhere that you get sunlight, and now you're generating Bitcoin with renewable energy. You're just printing money. Very slowly, but you're printing money. Zebpay also created the first women's DAO. It's a women's only DAO. You can only join if you're a woman. You can only vote in the DAO if you're a woman. And this DAO is used to derive or define the products that get, or the ideas that get worked on within ZEB Labs. And this is all around trying to promote gender equality in tech and in crypto. Especially, tech is a male-dominated world. India has been a very kind of male-focused and male-dominated culture. So again, we're trying to equalize the playing field, that accessibility side of things. And then another thing we've been building is Zeblytics. So blockchain analysis. If you've mined some solar BTC and you have this renewable energy Bitcoin, how do you prove that that came from solar? You need some way of tracing it back. So Zeblytics is a service that we're creating where we can do this kind of tracing. So we have that traceability of provenance to show this was mined from renewable energy. It sounds simple, but it's pretty tricky. So the title of this was, what is the future of cryptocurrency in India? And we don't know 100%. From what we've seen, there's been a lot of difficulties and challenges. But one thing we're absolutely sure of is that the market is huge. Everybody wants to be in cryptocurrency. Everybody wants to own cryptocurrency. And we have managed to have those grown-up conversations with the authorities to say, look, we want compliance, we want regulation. We want to do this in a way that everybody can understand and a way that is legitimized. And this is the future of cryptocurrency in India. It's huge, it's exploding, we're just getting started. This is day one. From here, it's only going up and up. We saw 400% growth in cryptocurrency assets in the last year, and it's growing exponentially. So for those of you who haven't been in India, you haven't seen what's going on in the Indian markets, you should pay attention because it's growing massively. Thank you everybody for staying around and staying late into the evening to watch this. We're here in booth number 34. Come and talk to us about our products and the kind of stuff we're doing in our ZEB Labs. Thank you.